Have you ever met someone that said, I was born in the wrong generation? Well, I have you know, you are completely wrong because we are living in peak times. We have ChatGPT and air fryers. Imagine it's the year 1669, spending a whole day at the farm and going home and having to tap this shit? Hell nah! I'd rather goon. In this video, I will be going over specific time periods people always refer to when they say I was born in the wrong generation. And also make sure to like and subscribe because we are about halfway to 100 subs. Number 1, the 1980s. What starts with an A and ends with an S? AIDS! This disease had the whole of this generation on lock. Now, it was believed at the time AIDS could be transmitted through casual physical contact, specifically with gay men. It was so bad, they went so far as to call this epidemic the gay plague. I'm not even joking. Search it up. And that kind of just shows how homophobic people were in this generation. For any gay people out there, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't want to live in this period. But the whole vintage look of the 1980s I do heavily fuck with. You can't tell me this diner doesn't look nice. Life did look pretty good, assuming you lived in the West. Specifically the USA. Because every other country was going through mass corruption. You had leaders like Saddam Hussein, Nicolae Ceausescu, Ferdinand Marcos, Kim Il-sung, what? I don't even say this guy's name, Mobutu Sese Seko. Like, if corrupt TikTok existed during this time, I promise you it would be doing generational numbers. Now, the 80s isn't as bad as the next period I'm going to speak about because it just gets worse from here. Number 2, we have the Edo period in Japan. Anyone that's heard of Japan or has watched anime has either wanted to be a samurai or live in Japan when it looked like this. You look at all these amazing structures like the Edo Castle and the Japanese gardens. And this was also a time of peace, no wars, and the urban centers like Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto grew massively. They also developed flipping fire-resistant buildings. Like, this shit looks kind of tough. It really got me feeling like Mugen from Samurai Champloo. But in reality, I wouldn't want to be Mugen or any samurai during this period. Because if you weren't summoned to war, samurais were basically useless. Matter of fact, during this time period, only one war took place, and it was a rebellion that lasted 1 year over a period of over like 200 years. And in the meantime, if you weren't fighting, you would most likely be a tax collector or a paper pusher. The fuck is a paper pusher? It's like a glorified 9-to-5 worker. It's just like, it's not what I expected. You may be asking, surely they had foreign wars? Yeah, fuck no, because they had this isolationist policy called Sukoku, where you couldn't leave or enter. This shit's like 1800s North Korea, bruv. And if you were born a peasant, tough luck, buddy. You're starting from the bottom and you ain't making it here. The social hierarchy was insanely rigid, and the taxes they put on people, well, you would just blow your mind. 70% tax! What could a peasant possibly have for you to be taxing him 70%? And by the way, their currency was rice. If there was a famine, which was like all the time, where no rice could be grown, that greedy government would still tax the shit out of you. And after all this, you would have to come home and tap this shit. Hell no! 2025, way better. Number 3, the year 12,000 to 17,000. Like, don't get me wrong, the whole aesthetic looks very fascinating. I mean, you could be a medieval knight or a princess or like a wealthy aristocrat. And I can't lie, classical music slaps. And look at this art. You don't get this sort of art anymore. But wars, death, and destruction. Wars as in a shit ton of wars happened during this period. Obviously, it is a massive time period. 500 years is a lot to cover. But why the hell was there this thing called the 100 Years' War? What sort of beef must you have had to be having a war for 100 years? Then you also have this thing called the Ottoman Habsburg War that lasted like 200 years. Goodness me. How could you be fighting for this long? And also, by the way, if you're like 17 to 18 watching this, you're most likely nearing the end of your life. Because motherfuckers in this time period live for about like 30 years. Imagine being called an unk at 17. And you might be wondering why they lived so short. Well, it's because of all the plagues they've had. The bubonic plague, the bubonic plague part 2, the bubonic plague part 3. Why are we getting a prequel, a sequel, and a trequel? What possibly could humanity have done to deserve such pain and suffering? And it gets even worse because hygiene is non-existent. People were shitting in buckets and throwing it out their windows. And they'd say this phrase, "Gadiloo," before dumping it on an innocent passerby. And don't let me get started on the flipping punishments they'd give out. Have you heard of the saying, "I don't give a rat's ass"? Well, they literally made a punishment out of this. What they do is place a rat in your buttocks and it would eat out your insides. Ah! Whose evil mind would come up with such torment? I wouldn't even wish this punishment on my worst enemy. Thank goodness we are living in 2025. Number 4. Ancient Greece, specifically Athens. Ah yes, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy and Western civilization. Socrates, Plato, and the beautiful Mediterranean coast. Who wouldn't want to live during this time? Yeah, definitely not me. This so-called democracy during this time was a whole load of BS. Only land-owning men could vote, which meant no women, no slaves, no immigrants were allowed to vote. And yes, you heard me, slaves. 1/3 of the population in Athens were slaves. And as mentioned before, the class structure was very rigid. If you tried to run away from your master, you're either getting whipped or even worse, you're getting thrown off a cliff. And don't even get me started on how women were treated during this time. I don't know what it was and the obsession with underage marriage in the ancient times, but this shit was very common in Athens. Women as young as 12 or 13 were made to marry men. No diddy. And there were also a whole load of rituals included, such as sacrifices. I ain't trying to get sacrificed because motherfuckers couldn't grow wheat for the past couple of weeks. That ain't the gods. That's just bad luck. So yeah, I wouldn't want to live in this time period for sure. Well, that's basically the entire video done. I hope you guys enjoyed it. In my opinion, I'd probably not go any further than the 1990s, but I feel like the whole concept of being the wrong generation is pretty cool on paper, but in reality, let's be real, it is quite flawed. And to be fair, yeah, there are some flaws in society now in 2025, but I'd very much say it is much better than what it is back then. If I've missed out on any other time periods, please let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, I love you guys so much. God bless, take care, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.